Hi, I'm Brittany Applegate, and I'm a brand marketer and strategist at Social Deviant in Chicago. Personal branding and how we show up in the world is important. It's our reputation. It's the lasting impression that we make on people who sometimes meet us for the first time or are able to observe us over a course of time. It's really important when we talk about personal branding to understand that it's the way people see us. That's why it's important to control the conversations that people have about you when you're not in the room. That's exactly what personal branding is. It gives you the power. It allows you to take responsibility for the conversations that people have about you when you're not in the room based on how they've experienced you. I'm here to talk to you about a 3-part series called Conversation Control. My goal is to help you build your personal brand in 3 easy ways. And today we are going to start with knowing your why. In this 3-part series called Conversation Control, we're going to start today with knowing your why. It's very important that we start with why because it allows you to know your reason for being, your reason for doing things. It gives you a foundation where you can go back and say, this is the reason why I am the way that I am, or I work in the career that I work in, or I want the things that I want, because you know your why. So right now, I want to start with a very important question. What do you think people say about you when you're not in the room? What do you think? Do you think they say, oh, Brittany's an amazing presenter? Do they say that they're very knowledgeable in a specific subject? Or do they say you're unreliable? You're never on time for anything. You're not someone that can be depended upon. What people say about you when you're not in the room matters. But here's the kicker. It's your responsibility to craft the conversations that people say about you. Yeah, it's your responsibility. It's all about how you show up in different ways. How do you show up on social media? How do you show up at work? How do you show up at networking events and opportunities where people get to experience you? So I really want you to take a moment when this is over to ask yourself, what do people say about me when I'm not in the room? And then think about that. And if it's not what you like, remember, it's your responsibility to change the messages. So let's start with why. Right now, I want to show you a really short clip from a video from Simon Sinek. It was a TED Talk that he had. He's an incredible marketer, a great teacher, has written some phenomenal books and has some really amazing videos on YouTube. And in this video, he talks about why it's important to start with why.
Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do, 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we're better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You're ready to buy a computer from me. All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat screen TVs. They've been making flat screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. And Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products, and nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. When we communicate from the outside in, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information like features and benefits and facts and figures. It just doesn't drive behavior. When we communicate from the inside out, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls behavior, and then we allow people to rationalize it with the tangible things we say and do. This is where gut decisions come from. You know, sometimes you can give somebody all the facts and your figures and they say, I know what all the facts and details say, but it just doesn't feel right. Why would we use that verb? It doesn't feel right. Because the part of the brain that controls decision-making doesn't control language. And the best we can muster up is, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. Or sometimes you say you're leading with your heart or you're leading with your soul. Well, I hate to break it to you, those aren't other body parts controlling your behavior. It's all happening here in your limbic brain, the part of the brain that controls decision-making and not language. But if you don't know why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, then how will you ever get people to vote for you or buy something from you, or more importantly, be loyal?
As Simon mentioned in the video, again, it's so easy for us to talk about what we do and how we do it, but it's so challenging to start with why we do it. The reason why it's so important to start with why is because why is exactly what influences decision making and influences that part of our brain that activates this gut feeling that says this is the right thing to do, this is the right person to work with. It convinces people, right? So to get us, in the mindset of what why looks like and why we do what we do, I want to take you through some really cool why statements by some of our favorite companies and brands. Let's start with Airbnb. Airbnb's why statement says, to connect millions of people in real life all over the world through a community marketplace so that you can belong anywhere. Google's why statement says, to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And Microsoft's why statement says, to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. Now, these companies have, of course, teams and marketers who help them identify why they exist and craft it into really cool statements. And the reason why is because they had to take some time to really get to know themselves as a company. Now, the reason why sometimes for ourselves it gets pretty tricky figuring out why we exist is because we don't really take the time to get to know ourselves, do we? So how can other people know you when you don't even know yourself? The beautiful thing about discovering your why is that it gives you a clear impression about who you are, what you value, what you're committed to, and how you can be counted upon to act. I want to help you quickly identify what your why is the same way I identified my why. So I'm going to take you through a really cool exercise and we're going to do it together using myself as an example. So I remember being in like the 5th or 6th grade, and oftentimes for busy work, our teachers would hand us a sheet of paper and it would have a bunch of random dots all over the place. And the goal was to connect one dot from one number to the next number so that we can connect these lines and ultimately start seeing what the big picture was. I think life is a lot like that. Oftentimes, you have to go back to childhood and figure out, who was I? What was I naturally doing before the world told me what I should be doing? And then you have to connect those dots to really see what the big picture of your life is and what some of those common consistencies and patterns are that ultimately shape the person that you became today. So let's take you through mine. Looking back on my childhood, I was always very social. Planning my birthday party wasn't as simple as inviting other kids to it. It was a production. Every year, beautiful invites, special guests, and I sold the party into both my parents in a way that they couldn't deny it. While other people found other things to do when commercials came on, I stuck around to watch them. Going into high school and college, I was the planner of my friends. I always explored the best options for our group based on our interests, and that was that. If I said this is what we were doing, that's what we did, and it was always a hit. Also in college, I majored in marketing. On the side, I designed flyers for parties and events, and eventually I applied to become an intern for a program called the Multicultural Advertising Internship Program, which ultimately allowed me to land my first job in advertising. And today, in the 8+ years that I've worked in the industry, one truth is that I've always been one of very few Black people within the workplace. And because of this, diversity and inclusion became a very important passion point of mine. I realized that each experience helped to shape who I became. A brand marketer who's as passionate about forming a more inclusive workspace as I am about working with some of the most creative people in the world. So when I talk about why I do what I do, my why statement looks like this: to support and help shape the next generation of minorities in advertising, and to diversify talent pipelines in the agencies where I work. How can you discover your why? I leave you with this: everyone has a deep motivation that fuels them, and everyone has experiences that have shaped who they became today. I encourage you to take time and to connect the dots of your life, to see the big picture for yourself, to see maybe why you were put on this earth, why you work where you work, why you chose the career that you chose, or maybe why you're thinking about doing something different that you never thought about before. To discover your why, I challenge you to ask people what they think about you. Maybe this looks like creating a Facebook status and asking people, hey, if you were to recommend me for an opportunity, what are some things that you'd say about me to help me get the job? This will allow you to see firsthand exactly how people think about you. And as I said, if it doesn't align with who you are and how you want to be perceived, then it's your responsibility to change the conversation. It's your responsibility to control the conversation. Another thing that you can do is talk to your parents. Ask them, how was I as a child? What were some things that I was just doing just because that it seemed like I loved so much? Because that's going to help you maybe identify an area that you haven't tapped into in a long time, but it's your passion. It's a part of who you are. It's a part of your why. And as cliche as it sounds, ask yourself, what sets me on fire? What gets me excited? What gets me riled up? What is something that I might do for free just because I love it that much? That's going to help you identify your why. Once you know your why, then it's time to explore who benefits from your purpose and who's impacted by it. In the next video of this Conversation Control series, I'm going to talk about knowing your audience and identifying exactly who that is. Thanks for tuning in.